got to. I said, no, when you're in age.
Yeah.
You're what?
I said, I gotta lose some weight so I can fit my suits again.
You know what? You feel good?
No, it's fine.
I got it.
Hey, I mean,
I'm trying to get you trying to get some way about it.
I see you did
We were doing cash this morning.
So,
5 seconds every day. What's up, Ruby?
How are you?
Oh yeah, sure. Go ahead. I'm gonna go say goodbye to Ricky and Lana.
That's so funny. I guess.
Hey guys, let's get started. Thanks for being here. Hello. Everybody hear me? Hello. Awesome. Let's get started. Hey, appreciate everybody being here. A couple things. So we're going through the rebranding phase right now. If I haven't gotten with you, or if Jason or Chris Ferguson has not got with you, get with one of us. You're on a list. There are signs we need you to have. We need you to have you fill one of these out and pick one of these signs. So I need to get with you by Friday. So if I haven't contacted you or somebody hasn't reached out to you, please get with one of us so we can make that happen, okay? Any questions?
Yeah, do they have a white option?
No. Nope. Those are your two options.
But I was
Hey, there's no race. Yeah.
But these are just for the people who
Need to be
who
contacted.
has-
It's not for everybody.
Yeah.
Correct.
And there are lots of signs available for everybody to order.
Yeah, there are other options. These are just the ones that, you know, that the company is, that you've had, so.
Based
Anyway.
on your average listings for last year. So you have to
Okay.
have at least 12 listings to get one sign.
And so, who's participating in the listing contest? Okay, so how many listings since first?
2 this week.
2 this week that are signed and sealed? What about you?
1.
1? 1? Anybody else that's participating in it? Okay, you're the winner this week. So each week we're going to give away a gift card for those who show up and participate in this production. Brenda Lee won last time. That was way cool. Thank you. So guys, get in and track your numbers with it. Get in and put your numbers in. Be part of that. I mean, it's free stuff. And this time we're giving away Trip Shift. Ginger.
How do we get the link for that? For this?
The link, Jason should have sent it out. If not, we'll have him send it again if you haven't received it. So,
Yeah, because I didn't know about it till Wanda mentioned it to me up the.
okay. Well, we send it out company-wide. Some of you didn't get it, I don't know why, but make sure that if you haven't got it, participate. Really, it's a lot of fun. You might as well get credit for what you're doing other than selling a home, right? So I don't see titles or lending, which leaves
Maybe
more
they
time.
didn't
Maybe they didn't know it was at
Time
11 instead of 11:30.
Maybe not, right? Because honestly, I didn't know until somebody told me this morning. Rob, is there anything that, as far as announcements that we're missing?
Summit next Thursday, which normally it's on a Tuesday, so make sure you're aware of that on the 13th. That is same location, Larry H. Miller, but just make sure that you adjust the date.
Okay. Barbecue outside today, the building managers are putting on. If you want a ticket, get it at the front desk. Free food. I think sometimes they give prizes away too, so.
Every year.
That's right. I've never won anything yet, but you know.
I won something.
You won something, really? I'll win something someday, I'm sure.
Hopefully the
Barbecue
lawn.
from Famous Dave's.
I'm not sure who's catering it, but that's usually who they use, isn't it?
Yeah, that's
That's
what-
who they
Famous
say.
Dave's? Yeah, so really good stuff. So,
Today's your day, Rick.
am I missing anything?
Awesome.
Okay, perfect. Well, George, seeing he's in town, agreed to go ahead and do base camp for us again, so let's give him a big round of applause. All right, George.
That's why I didn't. How's everybody doing?
Great.
All right. So the good news is, Rick, they didn't announce guest speaker, did they, Ginger?
The guest speaker for today?
Yes.
Yes, but it's.
They said guest speaker?
Oh,
I'm not a guest,
speaker.
I'm the CEO of the company. I didn't know if anybody knew that. I'm not a guest anymore. So hey, here's my commitment. I think a lot of you heard it last week, but my expectation is, boy, there looks like some really important stuff up here.
Real good stuff.
I was gonna say, man, like, way too analytical for me. Like, I have a script, I don't know, and I turn to Alona or Gretchen and I say, you answer that. So, I was just doing that just a minute ago. I'm like, I'd look over like, I don't know. So, anyway. You know what I remember is the good old days of Elite Realty Group with like 12 people in the room. Remember those good old days?
Yes, I do.
And I'd always forget your name and tell you the wrong person.
Yep.
Remember those days?
Yes, I do.
All right.
You know my name today?
I do know your name today.
Okay.
Yeah, I do, I promise.
Okay.
Did you go to Lake Powell this weekend?
No,
Okay.
that's
All
out
right.
of town.
All right.
Did you go?
We did go, we had a good time.
We're
Just while we down there, so.
did you want to see in
Did what?
Moore Creek?
Yeah, for a little bit, but then we went down by Dingley and Rope and we went all over. So Navajo Canyon, all that good stuff.
Is the water still high?
No, it's 40 feet low.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I knew that when I sent a video to Jessica, because we share a boat together, her and Jared and Jennifer, and as I jumped from the same place that I normally jump, I didn't realize it was 20 feet higher than it normally is. And it took me 2 days to recover so that I didn't like stumble because my ears were hurting me so bad. So it was about 70 feet. I don't know, Matt, does that seem like?
It's aggressive.
It seems aggressive.
Oh, for you.
But of course, if my 15-year-old, or 16-year-old now he is because he's driving, my 16-year-old did it, I'm like, well, there's nothing I can't do that he can
Like
do.
a 20-year-old thing.
Well, my 16-year-old did it, and so I'm like, no, you're not going to outdo me. So there's this whole thing with Isaac that's like this, and we'll get into something more with some substance here, Cobb, in a second. But I have to. There's this deal that by his junior year, Jesse's gonna. He says this whole thing like, I'm going to be able to take you. And so I like work out at the gym for one reason, Jeff, and that is to make sure Isaac can never beat me up. So that's kind of the deal. So
What does he weigh?
what?
What does he weigh now?
Isaac? I don't know. But he has my exact build, just smaller, so it scares me just a little. Because, and he is faster than me because I can't catch him now anymore. Fear of like rupturing an Achilles and all that other stuff that goes through my head when I'm doing this kind of stuff. All right, so hey, today, so we talked about this whole thing. So there's this foundation. This is not new. In fact, it's the same stuff, John, that we've always talked about. And you may remember this. It was always actually up on the board, even in the office there. And I know I brought it up, but I'm not going to spend any time other than I just want you to remind yourself of it, that look, just drive your life with a deep sense of purpose, whatever word you want to use, like purpose, desire, something that drives your life, that weaves in between everything that you do. It's the emotion behind number 2, which I always say is the goal, then the plan, and then of course your time management with your schedule. And then the next one I usually move to is your mindset, which is interesting. I've had more conversations about mindset than I have in a long time. What is always interesting to me is that when the market starts to make shifts, I'm just going to throw this out here, 4 types of markets. Just remember, some of you, which I appreciate taking notes, so just think about this, 4 markets. Number 1 is a market that's going up and everybody knows it. This is just according to me. I didn't read this. It's just as I've thought about it. When everyone knows the market's going up, everybody's pretty happy. And frankly, when everyone knows the market's going down and you go into an appointment, you're like, market's going down. I totally agree with what you're doing with your analysis. And then there's like these flat markets, right, where just nothing's happening, but everyone knows it. I mean, it's kind of stopped going up, it's trying to stop going down. It just is what it is. But then what I believe, which we've moved to, which is really interesting, is we've moved to the 4th, which is the most difficult parts of the market, which is a transitional market. Meaning, like an example, like with an Erin Mailer just yesterday. She said, I was going out and looking at homes between 450 and 550 in Saratoga. Do you know how many homes between 450 and 550 have sold in the last 30 days in Saratoga? How many do you think?
0.
None.
How many?
0.
How many?
None.
450.
Oh, God. Oh,
450.
between 450,000 and 550,000
One.
in the last 30 days, 0 have sold. That confused me for a minute when you were doing that to me. Sorry.
1.
Oh, did 1 sell? All right. Well, there you go. Right? When did it sell?
Yesterday.
Well, this is from last week's conversation. All right. I'm still right.
You're off to it.
Well, I'm serious. She was talking to Jeff. What's Jeff's last name? Not that Jeff. No, he's done,
Hanson.
no. There is that hand, it's not him. But anyway, so my point is that we're seeing this transition and people still don't know it. And as long as you know that it's happening, then you can have conversations. In transitional markets, what do you typically look at? Are you more concerned about the under contracts, and more concerned about the solds, or more concerned about the active listings? No.
The expires?
No. Well, that could work.
Yeah.
My opinion is that I got to the point in the 09 and 10 when I was selling, I didn't even pay attention to solds. I didn't pay attention to the listings. I paid attention to one thing because I knew that the home had sold within 3% of that list price, which was the under contracts. And it is where I believe you'll start to see to where the appraisers, you know what they're going to start doing? They're going to start adding an under contract into the deal, because it will substantiate either the price or the reduction price or the increased price wherever the market is transitioning. So my opinion is you pay very, very close attention to the under contracts that are going on right now, and it'll give you a great indicator to the actual realities of the market. Take 3%, minus it by 3% on that list price, it's sold within that price. And if it went under contract, it's within 3% of that actual list price, 9 out of 10 times. Okay? So what I was going to is I've had more conversations about mindset, mental toughness. What are you doing to protect it? What are you doing to elevate it than any other time, I think, in the last 3 years. And in the last 2 weeks, this is when all my conversations are about how are you protecting, elevating your mindset. I'm not going to spend any time there other than the fact that I know that number 4 here is skill set, and the quickest way to increasing and improving your mindset is to improve and increase your skill set. So for me today, just so you know where I want to spend a lot of our time, I'm still going to put the other 2 things up here, but I want to spend a lot of time just on skill sets. And I just want to give a little bit of an outline, and then I want to actually do, if you're open to, if you're okay, otherwise we can talk about other things, but I'd like to give a presentation, and I'd like to do an actual listing presentation. And I'd like to just show you, just again, it's not like I do it every day, but I do like the fact that when I was speaking to Doug Carey just a few weeks ago, he said my closing ratio is 92%. And in fairness, that is one of the highest closing ratios I have ever seen in a long, long time. At the height of my career, the best I ever got was 87%. I go on 10 appointments, it took 8.7 listings, and I went on a lot of appointments. I carried typically during those years, I was carrying 50 plus listings. Rob was right there with me. We were, it was an interesting time. It's where I got to know a handful of Jess and Aaron and a handful of you really well during that time frame as we were moving through it. So, and in fact, I remember when I met Curtis, and our meeting really met was with getting a price reduction for a seller with Justin Tershonsky before he ever joined the company. You remember that? Mm-hmm. So look, I just believe that you're moving into a market where your skill sets are going to matter more than ever before. And I know, in fact, some of you are in this room, I'm not going to pick on you, but you have said things like, I'll say, how's business? And then you'll say things like, it's great. And I'm like, really, what are you doing to get it? And you'll say things like, nothing. It's great though. and they'll say things like, some of you will say, I haven't done one thing this year, but I've got a lot of business. I'm scared because I haven't done anything. It's just working. So I love the fact that maybe you've been having a reprieve and the hope of that will continue forever. I'm just here to tell you that won't, just for the record. So it's really important that you get these skill sets down and we elevate them. And then the last 2, of course, is discipline and making sure you do more of what you say than not what you say you're going to do. And the last one is that you create some systems and some strategies. And most of you know where that story comes from. That story comes from, for me, from the standpoint as I was getting my butt kicked by Joan Pate. I sat down and just simply asked this simple question, which is most of what my journal is about, is asking questions, which was just this: what do top producers do? And so for me, I still have the sticky notes in a closet downstairs in my basement. When I wrote down these words over the years, of course, it's been refined a little bit, but those were the things I wrote down. And I just realized that as I watched, it was at the time that Joan Pate was doing 300 plus transactions a year. I remember that year she sold 365 homes. She sold 1 home a day with her and her whole team. So I was like, wow, while some people were condemning her for who she was and being, there was this other group of people like me going, whoa, how did she do that? And you know what? I don't need you necessarily to agree with the amount of volume or what she sacrificed to do it or what she did to make it happen. All I know is that there is no way that you do that level of business with that level of commitment without a deep sense of purpose behind it. And there's no way that you're not driven by a goal, some level of some plan, which your goal was to sell a home. She's the first agent to ever earn $1 million in commissions in a year. She did that back in 1993. That's pretty awesome. She had the schedule. She was fanatical about, mindset, skills. So I just realized over the years that this is what they did. And some of you know this, but I'll just tell us this part of the story. But I still remember this was like the turning point is I started to actually get listings. And I started to actually beat her when we would go head to head. And I still remember to this day walking down the hallway and someone grabs my arm and she says, I need to talk to you. And she escorts me into a conference room and says, sit down. And I sit there and she says these words. And at 23 years old, I did not humbly receive them, just for the record. But I've matured a little bit now. I'm grateful for that moment. And she said, there is no way that you are getting listings over me. You must be lying. And I still remember laughing out loud, folding my arms, crossing my legs, and just this arrogant statement came out, and just all I said was this. I said, Joan, all I say is the truth. And here's the truth. If they list with you, they'll never see you again, and you know that. And I said, if they list with me, I'm going to walk them through from point A to point Z in the transaction. So I simply say, do you want to list with me and work with me through the whole process? I started to go down through this whole script, and man, she blew up, took the door almost off its hinges and walked out. Fortunately, since that moment, I think we're both fans of each other still, and we have a great relationship. But that really happened, and so for me, it really changed the fact of how do you close, how do you get to that point, how do you convey a message, how do you take a script or dialogue and make it personable, how do you work through that process. And I just want to make sure that as you work through this, like yesterday I had a conversation with Brian Burnett, and our entire conversation was just about skill sets, and he had just walked out of taking a listing. Here's a guy whose goal is to take a listing every business day of the month. So last month he took 10 listings in the first 15 days of the month, and then he took 3. And my conversations are always with him about his complacency and his skill set, which is crazy because he is on track for $1.5 million. That's what he's on track for. And I'm telling you, he is no different than anybody else in this room, other than the fact that he drives with a deep sense of purpose, and when he's complacent, it is because he forgot why he's doing what he does. Right? So I just would challenge you that you have to get connected to that. And some of you, if you don't change the connection process, it will be just a job. And I've said for years that some people have a job. Some people will say, oh, I've got a career, and they'll say, and then other people, literally, it's like it's a mission for them. And it may be not necessarily the real estate, but it's the lives and the people that they impact on a daily basis. Okay? Can I just before, in fact, in another coaching session I had yesterday, I gave just 5 questions. Can I give you these 5 questions just to attempt to get you connected to your higher self, if that makes sense? They're the questions that I ask routinely of myself. I write them in my journal. I write them over and over and over again. So here they are, right? Number 1, no one said it's okay, but I'm the one talking now, so I'm going to assume that you are okay with that. You okay with that?
I'm good.
All right, here we go. Number 1 is this. What are you on? Some of you will go, oh, I've heard that question before, but when was the last time? Was it a month ago, 10 months ago, a year ago, 2 years ago? Here's the question. What are you unwilling to accept any longer in your life? Now, cheat sheet for you is what are you unwilling to accept any longer in your life, right? Complacency, right? Where are you settling? And the challenge for every one of us in this room is the fact that all of us are going to fight complacency at one point or another of our lives. So here's the 7 areas, just as a reminder. We're going to get to this skill thing, but I just want you to make sure, boy, if you can get connected to this, you'll drive your mind and your skills and your disciplines. Discipline is, I always say this, is these go hand in hand. Desire and discipline. So what am I willing to accept? Here's the cheat sheet, 7 areas of your life. Number one, these are in no particular order. Number one, your family. Okay? Or the family you want to have, whatever. Your relationships. Number two, spiritually. Right? How are you centering yourself? Whatever you believe, best advice I've ever been given, decide what you believe, live it. Some of you haven't even decided what you believe. You just are living, and you're living everybody else's plan, but maybe not your own. Okay? Third is travel, right? How are you traveling? What are you seeing? I always say that there are great things in this state, and there are greater things beyond just Temple Square, just for the record. Okay? So you can go on an actual trip, a real trip. What'd you say?
I just, something funny, yesterday I was talking to Tricia Perez, our agent in California, and she said her daughter came up to her and said, Mom, I will no longer accept riding coach in my life. I'm done with it. I'm only going to ride first class. I thought that was funny when you said travel.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, some of you are still, some of you I still watch, I watch you in planes. I'll be going to an event and you're in coach. And you make more money than I do. And I'm like, what are you doing? I mean, I'm serious. I'm fascinated by how people just do simple things. In most cases you buy your ticket, so much of it is just a mindset of from here to California is like $50 extra to go first class, but for some reason you guys want to save $50. I just would challenge you. Most people focus so much on how much they can save, and they never focus on how much they could earn. The difference of Everest versus a discount, what I consider broker, is the fact that they're going to say, look how much we're going to save you. I will never have that conversation with you. What I'm going to say to you is, look how much you can earn here. Because you cannot save yourself to wealth. You won't. And I have no interest in being the millionaire next door. I'm like, that's not even what I'm interested in. I don't want to be that book. I don't want to secretly, privately be this well, he had all this money, but no one ever knew. What is that? Every creation, I always say this, every creation that's ever been created was created by, in my opinion, as a creator, and he wants you to experience it. So why are you so hell-bent on saving yourself from not being part of it? Hence first class, just on a plane, as an example. And some of you will go, oh, well, he doesn't understand. I do understand, because I used to sit like this in the plane all the time for a long time. And I'd sit people next to Aaron, and I'd be like, what am I doing? And I'm literally going to panic attacks on a plane. And it became almost therapeutic that I could not, do you know the grossest thing, Ken, to ever experience on a plane is another man's arm hair. I hate it. It drives me absolutely crazy.
Yeah. See, that's why we're.
And then I was in first class just last week, and I'm flying from, I don't know where I was flying from, but I was flying, and the guy was leaning all over on my space, and our elbows nicked, and I'm like, dude, you got this much space, and you're on my part of the armchair. All right, second question. Okay, hold on. I'm not the second question. What number am I on? Travel. All right.
We got lost.
All right, travel. Okay, so travel. Next one again, no particular order. Money, just money. Right? Again, what are you unwilling to accept? My gosh, if you guys are still looking at the price of gas, you are screwing this real estate thing up bad. Okay? I mean, really, it's screwing you up. If you're looking at whether you want steak or chicken, or you're going to save $5, yes, be fiscally responsible, but you are in the most abundant, wealthy industry known to mankind. Instead of focusing on, again, how much you can save every minute of every day, focus on how much more you could do. If you just knocked an extra door, or if you talked to an extra person, or if you did something that drove more wealth and abundance, you wouldn't be in this big fight with yourself of what you can and can't spend. This world was created to be abundant, not scarce. And it's fascinating to me how we are so scarcity-minded in life. It drives me bonkers to watch it. All right, where are we? What's the next one?
Money.
Well, money. Your business, career, right? Your mission, whatever. Just your business, whatever you're doing from a business standpoint. What number is that? That's 6. Is that 5 of them? Have I said health yet? Have I said health? Health.
Travel.
All right. What are you willing to accept in your health anymore? Right? Right, Jeff?
Right.
Okay. Mr. Pearson?
Right.
How much weight are you going to lose in the next 30 days? Let this whole group know. I just like to know.
5 or so times probably.
What? I am on the treadmill. Hold on. I'm on the treadmill today, Jay, and I am at level, incline at 15, going 3.5 miles an hour walking. Heart rate's 147. I look over. He is at level 3 on incline and at speed 3. And his heart rate is like 90. I don't know, I think it was like 105 or something like that.
135.
Okay. So how much weight are you going to lose?
Okay, 10. Actually, Jeff and I are doing it.
No, that's not even enough.
Jeff and I
You
are
have so
doing
much to lose, you'll lose it like that. How much do you think he should lose?
Have that much in it.
Tell him. Mario has an opinion. Just kidding. All right. How much?
In the next 30, okay, 15.
Perfect.
Yeah.
You heard that, Alan? Hear that? 15 pounds.
I was knocking it on that fast. That's my issue.
It's all right.
He has variable goals.
I know. 15 pounds. So everyone who's friendly, when you see him, ask him where he is on his weight. Because this is ridiculous what's going on. Okay? Alright, here we go. And he's always a good sport. He lets me pick on him. I always give him a hug afterwards, Ruth, and I promise. If I can put my arms around him. I work out with this guy every day. I work out with him every day. I am not a personal trainer, Matt, but I, for some reason, became his personal trainer. I don't know how I got volunteered for that, Evan. All right, where are we again? No one's ever going to come back, Bob, because they're going to say, my gosh, I could risk my whole future by being in the same room. What number?
Last one.
Was that 6, though? 7. Legacy and leadership. Okay? So look, so for me, when I'm looking at those 7 things, and I sit there and go, what am I unwilling to accept? I am not here to say that I have any of it all figured out. I don't have any of it figured out, but I just know that those are like the answers to the test, that most of those areas of my life, I'm sitting there going, wait, am I complacent? What am I accepting that is completely unacceptable of who I want to be? And if you don't do that, like I'm going to say consistently every 30, 60, 90 days, ask yourself that question, then you're going to be sitting there complacent. And you're not born and built that way. I've recently been saying, this kind of came to me, and most people say, gosh, we're built to survive, not to thrive. But my thing is you're built to, survive, but you're not built to be successful. That's a decision. That's like a conscious connection to what you're willing to accept and not accept in your life. And that doesn't have anything to do with survival. Your body, your mind, everything is about survival. It is all about trying to protect you. And yet the very things that you want, everything you want out of your life that you really want, like the new boat, right, Jess, that we're getting, right, is outside of your comfort zone. That's what it is. It's outside. It's uncomfortable. There's nothing about being on a treadmill that's comfortable. It's absolutely uncomfortable. It's horrible. But the fact is that everything you want is outside of it. So if you want something in your life, then you have to commit to saying, I'm okay being uncomfortable. That's the beauty, is to be able to embrace pain. All the craziness that I actually dislike, of course, of the Lance Armstrong, there's one thing, even with all the performance-enhancing drugs, is he did one thing incredibly well. He somehow was able to persevere through pain far greater than the next guy. And you can say all of it gave him bigger lungs, more oxygen, but the one thing that is evident of every great athlete is that somehow they are able to endure a much higher level of pain. And if you can endure pain, you will be rich. If you can endure pain, you will be healthy. If you can endure some pain, you're going to have great relationships. That's what it's all about. The endurance of pain. Okay? So, as you go through this foundation, just remember that my whole deal is to make sure you guys are focusing on the right stuff so that you're not sitting there being complacent. It drives me crazy watching some of you. And you just like have all this talent, and then you just like wait for the business to happen, and yet if you just simply step out beyond that, you should be making millions, some of you should be making millions of dollars in this room, right? Because your talent, your skill set, your belief, they all work as long as you do. And it's incredible what you can do if you do that. So that was the first question, and we're halfway through our class. All right, here we go. Second question though, and that is what does your life look like when it's on track? Just want you to remember that. What does your life look like when it's on track? And do I think you're going to be able to do all 7 of these things all at once? Heavens no. But what I do know is that you're going to be able to focus on a few of them. And you're going to focus on at least one wobbly plate that's spinning and get it spinning right. And once you get that one spinning right, you go to the next one. But you never stop the process. Because complacency is a killer, but then also not knowing where you're going is an even ultimate killer. Right? So just think about this. When I first started this process of what am I willing to accept? What does my life look like when it's on track? Right? A vision, right? You write out, you begin to see it in all of these areas. And you see it. That's what your journal's for, in my opinion. Is you're defining your future. Not even just the past, but where are you going? And when you know where you're going, it's amazing what you can accomplish. It's crazy how many good things can happen in your life when you know where you're going. And some of you, and I've been there, you don't know where you're going. And when you don't know where you're going, man, it's like that's a tough place to be. So define it. Just get clear. Make a decision, a direction, a pathway, a purposeful direction that you're going to take different areas of your life. Third, what gives your life purpose? So for me, right, I can think about just a little moment of with my Bella, who's 11 years old. We climbed over this sandstone and we found this amazing little pool of water about the size of this room, and where the Lake Powell came into this little section. It was just a really cool place, and it was like we went into it, and then we started to step into it, and then I said, Bella, it was just the two of us, and I said, hey, come here for a second. And I got real. She was swimming, but I could still touch the ground. And I grabbed her and I looked her about this far away from her face, and I just said, "Hey, I just want you to know, no matter whatever happens in life, I always love you. Always remember that, and I believe in you." And then she's like, "Oh, okay, Dad." And then she swims away. She's about from here to Ruby, and I say, "Bella, turn around." And she said, "What?" And I said, "What did I say?" And she said, "You believe in me and you love me." And I said, "And you're never going to what? Forget that, no matter what." Right? And then she swam across, we got back on the rock, we jumped, and then we jumped into from about a 10-foot cliff, not a 70-foot cliff, and we jumped in the water again. And as we're walking back, I said these things. I said, you're going to create extraordinary things in your life. What are you going to do with your life? Where are you going? Well, for me, take all the trips. I was 19 days in the Mediterranean this year with my daughter. And I asked her the question as we were walking back to the boat. I said, hey, Bella, you were in the Mediterranean. You went to all these different countries. What's your favorite place to go, Lake Powell or Europe? And you know what she said?
Lake Powell.
Lake Powell. I'm like, well, why did I take her to Europe? But my point is I just want to point out the fact that I don't care who you are, whether you're an 11-year-old kid or whether you're 40-something, 50-something, 60-something, 70-something, 20-something. Did I cover all the ages? 19-something? I got everybody, Brenda Lee? I think I got everybody. I didn't hit the 80. I don't see anybody 80. Okay? But my point is that, look, if you know where you're going, you got a good chance of getting there. Some of you have never decided on where you're going to go, and you'll ask questions like, well, how do you decide? Just decide. And you know what? The only way you'll know if it's the wrong decision is what? If you actually decide on something and go, wait, that's not the path. And instead of condemning yourself for a decision, condemning yourself for learning something, condemning yourself for trying something, be willing to take a step back and go, okay, that's not the path. But because you made a decision, you now know that's not the path. And you go down the right path. So again, what gives your life purpose? Question number 4, what's important about money? We want to talk always about money, and I always get the bad rap. People will say, man, he's always about money. He must be all about the money. And what's so hilarious is that is the last thing I ever talk about. But what I do know is that money has an importance. And because I live vicariously through Justin Udy's Instagram posts now, and have this great life, is that what I do is I am able to connect the dots that the money that the man earns is in direct correlation and connection to the father he wants to be, and to the family that he has, and to the experiences and the memories that he wants to create. And that's evident. And that's pretty awesome. Because that's the reality behind money. For me, I can describe money in one word. Like, what does it mean to me? One thing. Freedom. Freedom. Freedom of choice, freedom of action, freedom of time, that I actually get to choose. And having been in such bondage over the years, I know the difference between the two, and they are extreme. And people always ask, why are you so, why are you still, because I got to get so far away from those moments of bondage, because they are horrific for me. Right? I mean, they are horrible. And as I've talked about in years past, I mean, it was awesome taking, the BMW back to your dad and saying, here's the keys, who's owns part of the BMW dealership down here. Right? But it was worse than that. Actually, I shouldn't say I had to take it to him, because I had to go back to him. And I remember Ben Beers, who you know Ben, at the BMW dealership, and he's looking at this deal because I was so embarrassed to go to his dad to say, hey, here's my keys. I can't pay for this BMW 9.5 years ago. So I was so embarrassed I took the Las Vegas BMW dealership, turned it in. And then I came back, I remember Ben Beers, a sales guy, who looks at it and goes, I've never seen a deal like this. And I go, what's the deal? He goes, no one gets this deal. This is as if you were his son. And so when I got back into the BMW world, it was because a guy believed in me who said, you know what, I'm going to put kind of my name on the deal and put this through. And my point to you is that it all started, even when I had lost everything, as I still knew where I was going to go. And I still remember sitting in boardrooms where Rob Oakey and others, and John and Gretchen and Shari Whitworth, and at that day it was Les Hellwell, and I still remember being in that room. I still remember it. And I remember Shari Whitworth slamming her hand on the table and say, stop talking about this $100 million company. That's nonsense. Well, 101 million last year in revenue, just for the record. And we had nothing back then. Nothing. So I would just challenge you that if you don't know where you're going, it is almost impossible to make good decisions. It is so easy to teach a teenager to do the right thing if you help them understand where they want to go. If they're clear on where they want to go, they'll make their own decisions and self-govern themselves. It's fascinating how much control we want to put on other people because we never ever figure out what they want to do. And if once you guys figure out where you want to go, the rest is history. You will pay whatever the price is, you will go through whatever the sacrifice is, you will take on whatever pain it is, and you will win the game no matter what. And then I get experiences like with a Justin Udy, where I thought he was actually snorting cocaine in the middle of January, and I call him, and he's like, I'm like, where are you? And he goes, I'm out knocking doors. It was like 8 o'clock at night when it's like the best time of the day, kind of when it's the inversion. You know those moments, like when the inversion's happening? You can see like this far in front of you, and he's out knocking doors with a golf ball. And you know what? But those are the sacrifices that you pay. And some of you see Justin in his ivory tower of greatness, and you think like it all showed up instantly for him. But he paid a price. Right? I still remember like with a Jessica sitting at my desk years ago, right? And I remember to where she just was even asking if she should be in real estate. I can still remember sitting down with Brian and Ruth Ann Noel, and Brian had a full-time job for how many years at Three Fountains?
23 years.
23 years. 180 days later, correct me if I'm wrong, or within, I don't know, we said let's make a year plan, but I think it was 180 days later or less than 6 months.
9 months.
9 months later, he quit a job because he went from making 100 plus grand, just a little over 100 grand, to 200 grand, and then from 200 grand to 350 to 5 something. And those aren't accidents, because once you know where you're going, it's easy. You're not fighting prospecting. It becomes a tool that you embrace because it gives you everything that you want. And all of a sudden you say things like what Alma says, which I love, which is that it's a performance chamber, not a death chamber. Your prospecting booth isn't a death chamber, it's a performance chamber where you get to perform incredible acts of service and give back to people who are so desperate for your leadership because you showed up. because they knew when you showed up it was all going to be okay. That's a whole different scheme to life. And question number 5 is simply, what's important about your health? Those 5 questions, along with, I'm sure I could give you some others, and so I'm going to give them to you, because I can. Because it's my meeting. And that is just a question I've asked for years. It's a question I remember for years I've had agents post up in their cubicles and their offices, and it is just simply this: who do I have to become? And you fill in the blank. Who do I have to become to earn blank number of dollars? Who do I have to become to earn or to do a certain number of deals? Who do I have to become, right, to be the father I want to be? Who do I have to become to be the mother I want to be? The partner I need to be, the spouse that I need to be? Who do I have to become? Because who you are today is not good enough for who you have to be in a year from now or a month from now. You have to be progressing. And progress is happiness. If you are progressing, I promise you are miserable. You are either flatlined, you are coasting, you are waiting, you are praying for business, you are doing things that I'm not here to, well, like I am making a little fun of, but the reality is that you don't have to do any of that if you just work. Now, if you want to acknowledge where your gifts and your blessings come from, that's your prerogative. But what I would tell you is that business comes to those who work. And that is a reality. And you will never get to exceptional levels of wealth without a fierce level of work. And the greatest work you will ever do, the greatest sale that you will ever make, will be the sale that happens between your 2 ears. And it will be the hardest one you will ever make. And even, as I said last week to the group when we were here for that Tony Robbins part, is that even then, as I was reflecting on the fact that I said that, I'm like, gosh, you know what? It's crazy that I had that come up in my head, that I was thinking that I was not who I was in the sense of a leader. And like all these things continue to get discovered. That's what I'm saying. I don't have the answers. I just know that these are great questions that reveal who you are, who you're being, what you're settling for, where you're complacent. They're questions of like, okay, now where am I going next? I love what the football coach, what's the football coach of the Patriots? Belichick. I don't know if it was his first question, but one of the first questions that or responses he gave to a question, I just remember the response, and they had just won the Super Bowl, and he said this, he said, I'm already 4 weeks behind for preparing for next year. Like he wasn't even celebrating the moment. Like all he thought about was, I'm already 4 weeks behind. So I just want you to think about, just again, where you're taking your life, what you're doing with your life, how you're living your life. If you don't know where you're going, it is next to impossible to get up on time, impossible to prospect with passion, energy, enthusiasm. It's impossible to bring people and unite people because it just becomes a job. It just becomes something that you are existing in versus something that you are leading through and creating a legacy. And as I said last week also, is that look, whatever your belief is, I know this. I believe that you're going to take something with you. No, it's not the U-Haul that comes behind your hearse, but what you have created within who you are. But I also believe that if you don't believe that you're going to leave something. And you'll either leave a voice of warning like, holy crap, don't do what they did. Or it will be like, wow, what a legacy. If I could emulate or be anything like them, life would be extraordinary for me. Your posterity, your children, people you've led, friends that you've had. I hope that your legacy will be something that you leave that people look back on and go, wow, what a difference this person made in my life. Do you ever close your eyes and wonder what your funeral will look like? Do you ever close your eyes and see who might attend? Do you ever wonder what you're really leaving behind? This world can be all about take, what did I get? But I would challenge you that your greatest joys in this life will come from the fact that you look back and you say, okay, what am I leaving? What am I giving? And that will mean more to you than anything you will ever get. But the only way that you get, ultimately, is you have to give. It will be the only way. And the only way that will bring you the greatest joy.
My mother died when I was 16. It was amazing to see the turnout that she had given her entire life to the community. She's the one that bought the parades here in Utah. just so you know.
That's awesome.
They actually named the park after her.
How fun.
Um,
Yeah, it's a legacy, right?
Yeah, she.
And you're part of that legacy now, right? What will you leave? Right? Okay. Any thoughts, comments? Evan, thank you. Any other thoughts? Okay, now don't get too somber with me because I got all emotional, we're connected here. All right, we gotta stay focused on some real estate for a minute. Chris?
Back to the Patriots coach.
Huh?
A lot of people say, like, how can you possibly, like, just start focusing on the next thing? You gotta celebrate, you gotta do these things. And while that's important, like, I've been so focused on this year, over the last couple of years really, is standards. So for him, his standard is not just winning a Super Bowl, right? His standard is to do it over and over and over again, every year. With different players, doesn't even matter. He has like stuff coming at him, but he still has that standard. So that's why he's holding himself to that, and that's why people find it, you know, kind of unbelievable. Like, how can he possibly already be saying I'm 4 weeks behind prepping for next year? So just with your legacy, identify like what your standards need to be to leave that legacy to those you, whatever it is you want to do.
Love it. It's great. Any thoughts? Listen.
I think on your question, just add one more question, right? What would I do if I couldn't fail?
I love that. What would I do if I could not fail? Love that. The other one I consistently ask, but it goes either from a spiritual level to a partnership, spouse, right, level, and to a father or mother level, which is simply what type of relationship do I want and who do I have to be? So what type of relationship do I want with my children? Who do I have to be as a father? That changed my life on a flight from Bahamas. You know the little tissue, like the little thing they put under your cup? Like the little napkin, Linda? It was shredded, I remember. And I remember the lady, I just, for some reason, man, I got so emotional about the fact of who I wanted to be. It was like this defining moment of defining the relationship, still have the yellow piece of paper, 2 pages I wrote, and the who do I want to be and what type of relationship do I want as a father with my children. And that question just like opened floodgates of emotion. And I remember the stewardess or the flight attendant, I guess politically correct, right? How the flight attendant. And when she came, she was like, "You okay?" Like, I'm just like, I'm like, yeah. But it meant a lot to me. Like, one of my most important things with my children is I want to cast a vision of what is possible. I don't want to give them necessarily anything. I just want to cast a vision of what's possible. I want them to be able to see what's possible. And I like to ask them, what do you see? And then I'll finish it, well, you know what I see? And then whatever that is. Right? Like for Isaac, because you know what I see? I see you on a baseball mound. I see you with thousands of people around you, cheering, screaming at you, hoping you will fail. And then I see you getting chills, throwing strike after strike. I see you doing things that most people would only dream about, and you're actually doing it. He still remembers coming back right by the most polluted place in Salt Lake City, which is by the gas refineries. And he just remembers the flame was going up there, and I made him scream out loud. I mean, I made him. And he had just lost a baseball game. He was screaming out loud, "I will play in the Pac-12. I will play in the Pac-12." But today, I don't really have to govern him much about it. He dedicates so much of his life to this process and who he's becoming that it becomes a natural process. If he gets there, I don't know for sure. But I do know that if he believes it and he sees it, then he starts taking decisions and making execution upon the idea that maybe he could be there. It's the same thing for just simply selling a few pieces of real estate. Where are you going? Okay? So with that, we have 6 minutes for skill sets.
Yep.
So how about this? I will take any questions or comments, and then I want to open it up to basically let's just role play a few scenarios. Like, what are type of objections that you're getting out there, and let's just play around with a handful of objections right now, and we'll do some objection handling. And then as we continue to work, I'm going to try to do as many base camps as I possibly can. And so I'm always grateful that you're here, and it's always awesome to be with you. So.
It's probably back to the first thing that you said, but what is the main motivator?
What drives
Who
me?
do you go to? Yeah.
I've thought a lot about that, of course, over the years, but, most recently I've really wondered, like, is it, I think two things. One is to prove something to others and to myself, but I also think probably the greatest motivator is the avoidance of pain. Like my experiences of having nothing, like the moments of standing in my shower, fortunately there was probably more water coming out of my eyes than the shower, is I was in question of, can I provide for my family? I think that what committed me to creating what we have, like on a personal level, deep, was the avoidance of that never, ever, ever happening again. And I can't absolutely guarantee that something like that could never happen, but I can say that I'm a lot further away from that moment than I was then. There's things like I will never have a company that I'm not the majority owner in, because I refuse to trust the fact, ultimately in the end, that the absolute right decision will be made at the very end. And they may seem like little small things, but I am so protective of what has been created, because I also believe that, I had someone yesterday, they said, it is amazing how I find myself here. Like, I don't want that lost. My commitment, right, is getting back to what we normally do now, this infrastructure, and being able to be with you is the fact of this, many of you know Jeff Fotheringham, right? He's one of my favorite dudes. He's not here anymore, but I still remember him saying, he goes, man, I don't believe in God, but my gosh, if there was a church, it'd be the Church of Everest. And I've always appreciated that. And I always take, I used to get so mad if someone went out and did something like and didn't stay. And today I find it amazing, with tremendous gratitude, of all the different companies that have been created because of what is here. Many of you may not know this. The owner of Equity, the majority owners of almost the Keller Williams, the Select Group, and maybe some of you guys, all these people have worked in this company at one point or another, either here or at Realty Executives. And I always think about this history, and really the legacy is just a testament that if someone believes like I can go do this on my own, I'm like, well, and I guess we did our job if that's what they feel like they want to do, or they want to do it somewhere else. But I think pain is probably my biggest motivator. I'm not really good at celebrating. My favorite thing is with Gretchen. She'll say, you know, that's a pretty big deal. Like something like what happened? Oh, like last week we paid off Everest in Utah. Like it's debt free. And I went, oh, that's cool. And she's all, that should be more than cool. Like any celebration? And I did. I bought myself a company watch. Not this one.
So I'm thinking most of us would be happy if we worked out hard to do like what Justin Udy's doing, and to have investment properties, save enough money, not have to worry about retirement. But you've gone a quantum leap beyond that.
I don't know about that.
You could be working at some company doing what Justin Udy's doing.
Sure.
That wouldn't be enough for you.
Maybe not. But I also know that, like, if I take Justin, is that I'm watching Justin expand. Since you're here, we should let you know we're talking about you. But I would say that my observation as being one of my dearest friends, and how grateful I am for him that he is here, is that I've watched him expand. Because there comes that point, and I've watched Jessica do it, I've watched others do it, they get to a certain point economically, they're earning the money, they have to give back. It is in their soul, it's in their DNA. They have to do something different, whether it's they go to a charity, whether they go serve somewhere, whether they, maybe they're religiously affiliated and they get deeper into that arena, they go do something. And so my observations, I've watched Justin do a lot more where he's giving back. One of the things, just the fact that he's here in this room, this moment, right, is one, he's always committed to learning something, and he's always committed to going and trying to give something. And to where you're not just driven by the money, you're driven by the difference that you make. And that comes as you surpass past that point of, wait, am I going to pay my bills today? Am I going to survive today? And it's really the essence of the company. This company wasn't created, and we got to roll, but just, it's a good point. This company was not created because I thought, oh wow, I could earn a lot of money. The company was created, and I think you'll see a video that I actually say this. I get really choked up about it, and I will not today. But I will just simply say this, that it was created out of desperation. It was created out of the fact that it wasn't like, oh my gosh, I'm going to get rich, I'm going to help everyone live their dreams. It was created a moment where people would show up in my office, like the Kim Gottfredsons, who came and said, when she was on the phone, she said, I want to join, I can't make it to the company. And I said, what do you mean you can't make it here? I go, just drive your car. And she said, well, okay, I'll drive my car. But she goes, I legitimately do not have enough gas to get back home. And I said, come here. And I gave her a check for $200. I remember I said, here's a check for $200. Now let's get going. And then I still remember that after I gave a $200 check, I got the motherly look like, what on earth are you doing for Gretchen? But I don't know, it's in my DNA to the fact that I want people to excel. And I don't care whether you want to be a ditch digger. Like, again, I don't care what my kids do. If I just talk about my children, I don't care what they choose to do, but you better freaking be the best at what you do. And so I don't care whether it's my daughter who's off to, try to get into medical school at UCLA and all the different things she's doing, or whether it's Kenzie doing what she's doing. I don't care as long as I know that they're doing their very, very best. And at some point, the tables turn where it's not about security, survival, it's about giving back. Maslow talked about it, right? The hierarchy of human needs, self-actualization. But I think there's that point where that becomes the primary focus is not how much money I can earn, because it's pretty empty, actually, in my opinion. But again, if that's what drives you, it used to drive me for a period of time, and it may be driving you today. But I promise you that if you excel and you become wealthy and rich from this, it won't be your driving force. It just won't. You'll find other things that will be much more fulfilling. You still may sell real estate, but you will embody other ways in which you give back, which is what I watch Justin do over and over and over again. It's the things I see Jess doing. It's the things that I see many of you do, because if you don't get that fulfillment out of your life, you will be lost, and there's no question about it. So, any comments since we were just talking about you?
No, I think that's true. I mean, money once you get to I think the statistics are, you make up to $70,000, if you're living at $30,000 a year, 99% of the population in the world would change places with you right now.
Yeah.
And you put that perspective and you start thinking about, my needs are met. Like, when was the last time you skipped a meal without choosing to skip it, right? Like, when's the last time you actually were hungry? When's the last time you didn't have good water? When's the last time you didn't sleep under a roof or sleep on a bed? And so you start putting that in perspective, and then you start realizing the gratitude of the blessings that you have, and that if you can figure out your way in your life to have your life overflow in a way, like, your needs are only so much, I mean, whether, if your thing, like you said, is a car that you want, like, get that car, and then after 6 months you'll realize it still gets you A to B, just like your beater did.
Yep.
You get that house, and that's the thing, is like, after a certain amount of time you realize, like, you'll meet people that have a lot more than you, but you'll also realize they've sacrificed everything for it. And so then you start putting in balance of who do I want to be?
Yeah, your values and your goals, right?
Yeah, because you'll meet people that have more zeros behind them than you've ever met, but they maybe don't have the type of standards or goals or family or friends or charities or whatever, because they've focused on maybe one thing versus maybe other things. And so I think you start deciding, who do I want to be? What do I want to be? And if I do this, not how can I spend all this, it's like, what can I use this for?
Yeah.
Right? And so then
change everything.
Yeah, but then like you say, your driving force changes. Like, yes, you want things, but also now it's like, you have to grow, because if you don't grow, you can't create opportunities for others you work with. And it's not just about when you stay up at night, it's not, how am I going to make more money? It's like, how can I make more money? And if I make more money, how can I help them? And how can they make more? And then if they make more, how can the agents do more? Then what do I need to,
Yeah.
It's this.
It's a legacy.
Yeah, it just changes over time, right? But yeah, there's these seasons that you'll have in life. The season of just putting your head down and like figuring it out. The season of like figuring out, okay, where do I need to put the money to invest, and the season of like, how can I get back? You know?
Right. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, just, are you see on the line? Okay. I gotta jump on this call, but I just want to say this one thing. And it's simple and short, because it made me remind me, and it's something I've said for a long time. I didn't come up with it, but man, if there's any tagline I would give you, and that is, the 2 most important days of your life will be the day you were born, and who knows how to finish this? The day you figure out why. And I think that real estate affords us an amazing opportunity to do that. And look, in the end, you guys know that, I hope you know this, you're my friends. The reason I can pick on a handful of you, even at really mean levels up there, is because I know he knows I love him, and that I want the best for him. I hope that you know the fact that that is really where it all comes from. And there is nothing that you can't learn in this business, and there's nothing you can't do. So, you know, your sky is the limit, and don't settle. Don't give up. Don't give in. Don't allow yourself to waver. Stay your course. See what's possible. And you might just surprise yourself that you might just achieve some extraordinary things even beyond what you're doing today, because there's always the next level that you're going to go to. Okay? Awesome. Out of here. Thank you so much. I know you know this, but there is still morning meetings, just for the record. So love to see you one of those too. Thank you, George. Hey guys. Okay, thank you so much.
Good work, George.
Downstairs out there.